Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Siri Brown, and I'm happy today to be here to talk to you all about my perspective, my experience on navigating institutional systems to advocate for people of color. I'm so glad that you all are here dialoguing, engaging in these rich discussions. And a special thank you to Sister Kairishi Wiggins for asking me to come and contribute. So I want to start off by telling you just a little bit about myself in relation to the topic. I am a college professor, and I came into being a college professor through honestly being a homeless youth. And I was accepted to college and found just so much wonder and so much support for learning about myself as a Black person and as a woman. And I found that the college setting offered everything that I needed: housing, food, financial aid, and importantly, that validation that I'm an intellectual person and a support for the goals and dreams that I had in becoming a college professor. So, so I have spent the majority of my adult life on a campus. And I went to predominantly white institutions, majoring in ethnic studies, African American studies, and US history. So I have a bachelor's degree in psychology with an emphasis in ethnic studies, master's degree in African American studies, and a PhD in US history, early US history, with the emphasis on African American and US women's history that I got at The Ohio State University. So again, I say all that because I think I understand these systems. I have served in many capacities within institutions, government-run institutions of higher education. I fell in love with very early the community college system in California. California has the largest community college system in the world. It's part of a three-tiered system: the community colleges, the state colleges, and the universities. There's relationships that are pretty strong amongst those three in terms of transferring units and those kinds of things. And but I fell in love with the community colleges because it fed my passion for serving our people, disadvantaged people, marginalized people. And quite honestly, community college students are very brilliant. Barbara Christian, a Black feminist, said that Black people theorize to survive. And when I read that and read some of her work, I thought, wow, that's really true. It's why when I'm teaching at the community college versus teaching at UC Berkeley, which is where I also teach part-time, it's why the students at the community colleges, show the level of brilliance that they have above and beyond, hate to say it, the four-year university students, at least in my nearly 30 years of teaching. And it's because we do theorize to survive. People of color do. We understand so much about the way oppression works, the way marginalization works, the way to grasp and seize power, the way to navigate culture and cultural hegemony. We understand so much of these things because this is what our reality is. We don't always have all of the fancy academic language to describe it, but once we introduce ourselves to that language or to those writing or to those theorists, it's like, oh yeah, that's what I experienced, that's what I live. So I have spent my career in the community colleges in California, most of that time in the classroom, teaching African-American students, Southeast Asian students, and Latino students, Latinx students. Again, I'm telling you all this as it relates to the topic. So as a faculty, I quickly became department chair over 6 or 7 different disciplines. And I served in that role for a few decades and built permanent institutions within these institutions. And then I went into administration, where I was able to impact the institution. So in a positive way for people of color. And so this is why, again, I'm talking about navigating these institutions, these systems, because people would always say, how do you get that done? How did you build that? How did you do that? What are you up to? And I became aware of the fact that I was good at navigating these systems to advocate for students of color, especially for African-American students. And remember that when we're talking about these institutions, these are institutions that are a part of the system of institutionalized racism. We know that the education system does not do people of color very well, especially working class, Black and brown, Southeast Asian, immigrant, et cetera, students. And so working within a system that does not usually benefit us, or we don't usually have access to, can be really critical. Learning how to lead in this environment can be really critical because you can have immediate and direct impact on the lives, the trajectory, the psychology, et cetera, of marginalized people, right? Because so many of us are trying to navigate these systems. So I'm gonna give you some points of what I've learned in 30 years of doing this work. And along the way, I'll give you some examples of what I did along with my colleagues in ways that have had a positive impact. All right, so the first thing about leadership and leading in institutions like this is that you must know thyself. You to become an effective leader, you really have to dig deep into yourself, your skills, your skill sets, your strengths, and also your areas where you are challenged, your areas where you are not so good. No one is great at everything, but the best leaders that I have seen are really keen and sharp on what it is that they bring to the table. And they hone and craft those skills or that skill set so that it can be maximized. And how do they hone and craft it? They read, they talk with mentors, they get feedback, etc. Well, in terms of the challenges, you also have to be vulnerable enough with yourself and with those who are very close friends of yours or allies of yours to dig deep into what your own personal challenges are. And I mean this literally, not just skills. Like, for example, I can be skilled and I can be unskilled or challenged in technology. It's important to know where your skills still need work. But I'm also talking about your own psychology, based on your background or based on just your personality, the areas where it's a challenge for you. Is it difficult for you to say no? Is it difficult for you to trust certain types of people? Do you have areas of internalized oppression? Do you have areas of implicit bias? And really, all of us could say yes to all of these things because we are human and we are raised in this capitalist, racist, sexist, homophobic, et cetera, society. So it's hard not to get this yoke on us and in us. So we have to become really keen, open, and vulnerable with ourselves to identify where are the areas that I still am growing and pushing myself to heal or to become stronger. And this again is where a close network of people that you really trust, they're not jealous of you, they're not, they don't have issues, but they're gonna be like, girl, let me tell you what. Or sometimes you have that supervisor that will give you a really honest evaluation and praise you for the areas that you're really strong at and tell you, look, I want to support you in developing these work-based skills that you have identified that you want to get better at. And as a matter of fact, you should ask your supervisor, if you have one that you have decent respect for, to support you in professional development. So the reason why I think it's really important to know thyself is really two major reasons. For job skills where you are challenged, it's important that when you're leading, that your team has people that have strengths where you have challenges. So if I'm building a team of people to advocate for a new department or a new advocacy group within the institution, Siri, want to make sure that I have someone who is really good at technology, because in today's world, that's going to come in handy. And that is not me. That's not me. So I pull on the strengths of those around me who have different backgrounds and different skill sets and different perspectives that complement what I do and do not have, and also have a framework of working collectively to advocate and navigate what are generally very racist, sexist, etc. systems. So know thyself and be willing to certainly not beat yourself up, because you are a beautiful, amazing expression of the Creator who's here to do this work. But be open to where it is that you want to grow, and have those people around you to support the skills that are needed to get the job done. The second thing that I think that good, strong leaders need, and this is an area where I think that I am strong at, is to have vision. To have a clear vision, clarity of vision. And as you grow and mature into advocating for your vision, that vision should be getting clearer in all kinds of ways. So, excuse me, what do I mean by having a clear vision? A clear vision of what it is and who it is that you are here to advocate for, on a spiritual level, on a political level, a social level, whatever level that you see it. Who are you here to advocate for? Who are you here to blaze a path for? Who are you here to battle against? Not individuals, but what systems, what levels of oppression, what ways of intersectionality are you here to advocate against? Be clear on that, and always work on defining it with more and more clarity. And the reason why is because it can be so easy, especially as people of color and LGBTQ plus, those of us from so-called marginalized groups here in this country. It can be very easy to want to fight and battle everything. I mean, we're a passionate people. We believe in justice. We believe in equality. We know that so many things are wrong. But if we hop around from this to that, to that, to that, to this, we won't get as much done as if we're clear on, oh yes, I'm angry about all these things. And I want and support justice in all these things. And I'm an ally to all these things. I'll show up at your protest. I'll help you write that grant. But I'm clear on my vision, why I am here, and how my skill set and my ancestors and my spiritual framework feeds what I am doing. My passion is very clear. And I know that it's a clear passion because for decades now, I have gotten the kind of confirmation spiritually as well as verbally from people around me and my students, like, oh, this is your thing. So listen to that spiritual voice. Or if you don't have a spiritual, understanding, or, if this offends you that I say that, then listen to the kind of feedback you get from random people, because the messages are always there as to why we are here, what your specific purpose is, and the work that the path will become clear for you to do. For me, that passion is in the classroom, is teaching African-American students really who they are, the glory of who we are, and really how to understand and navigate white supremacy and cultural hegemony. And it ties to everything else I do on campus, because I can sit and I can remember what it was like to be young and Black and not really know my history. I can sit and remember what it was like to feel the racism, the prejudice, the misogyny, all these things, and not really clearly understand how to reject all of it internally and externally. I can remember what it felt like to become so inflamed with power to come to know who I am. Like so many African-American leaders and other leaders of color who write or speak about unknowing and the process of knowing and what that does to them. It sets your path on fire. It sets your vision on fire, and it brings you this kind of clarity in vision. So, along with teaching, everything else I did went along with that passion around how do I shift the mentality of how do I do my part to shift the mentality from oppression and lack of clarity about how oppression works to a liberatory mindset and framework. How do I free the minds? I can do that in the classroom, and I think I'm skilled at that. But I also know that people learn in different ways. So one of the areas that I led over 20 years ago was creating Black consciousness raising tours at my college. And Black consciousness raising tours are where I take African-American young people who've never left Oakland, where we're from, never left the Bay Area. Some have never been across the bridge to San Francisco, who certainly have never had a passport. And I take them to different places in the Black world. And this grew out of a passion, but also my own background. I had no idea. I rubbed together financial aid and went out of the country, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind and expanded my understanding of the world, that people of color dominate the world, that US culture is a very sick culture, that the US government has done all kinds of atrocities to other countries. I mean, it just blew my mind as a young person, and I was forever changed by that. And so I created that because I understand that people learn in different ways. And I actually think that people of color, we learn better when the learning is more dynamic and engaging and immersive. They call it immersive learning. So I created this because maybe you don't want to sit down in the classroom and lecture and learn and read. And, this is an important part of learning. It's part of the framework. But if I take you abroad for even just 10 days, you'll learn more in that semester on this Black experience that we have than sitting in the classroom, even in the best teacher's classroom. So again, just an example of tying the passion and the vision. When you have clarity about why you're here in your vision, then it's easy to broaden the ways that you can expand your vision. All right, another tip for you of leadership, or something for you to contemplate, is to know your playing field. This is really important in institutions, very important institutions. People in institutions, at least many that I've engaged with, think that they're doing good work. They think they're on the side of right. Well, I'm a teacher, we're doing the good thing. I work at a nonprofit, we're doing the good thing. You should question that. Because again, these institutions are part of a larger system that oppresses marginalized people, and particularly people of color. And so they can play this interesting role of liberatory and oppression all at the same time. And so don't get caught up in thinking, well, of course, I've got it together and I know what I'm doing here, and we don't have any problems here because I work for such and such nonprofit, or I teach for such and such. Or I'm a nurse, or I'm a whatever it might be. Remember the larger context in which we are engaging here. So knowing your playing field is key to navigating to advocate for people of color. And here's some very practical things. You should know the laws that govern what it is that you do and what your institution is to do. You should know the policies within that institution, so that you, for a couple of reasons, the laws and the policies, because you want to know how to navigate and advocate within it. And you also want to be able to utilize those policies when you find resistance. When people say you can't do this, you can't do that, or they come after you because you are doing that, you have these knowledge of these policies. Kind of like Huey P. Newton taking the law and saying, we have the right to observe the police. So knowing that that can be very powerful for you. Knowing that the different groups within the institution, whether it's union groups or whether it's, there's different governing bodies within the institution, you should be in some of those groups to get to know how they function and work, see the ways that white supremacy and other systems of oppression work within those groups. And you also should do it so that you get to know the psychology of people and the psychology and culture of the institution. So know the playing field. You can't play chess without knowing the board and knowing what the different pieces, how the different pieces move. You can't win at chess. You can't play and you can't win. So, so it will benefit you to understand the system so that you can navigate it. It'll benefit you, and when I say you, I mean what you're advocating for people of color, because you will get to know people within that institution. I lead with the philosophy and understanding that those at the so-called bottom are the ones that actually have the power to move the institution. In higher education, it's the custodians, it's the assistants to the presidents, it's the classified professionals that are working in the different divisions. I'm telling you. These are the people that actually know the system, know how to navigate the system, and actually really run the system. They're usually the ones that have been there the longest, and they have that institutional knowledge. And they are usually the ones that will support you without some of those other kind of crazy politics that can happen from administration or those who are at the so-called top. So, so respect, respect the classified professionals in the institution, and know that they can be supportive of you and you of them. And there's a lot that you can learn and get done by knowing and working with the classified professionals. Next piece for leading and navigating is to cultivate relationships with allies. I think that every great leader has a group of sisters, in this case, around them who also are brilliant, dynamic, and doing amazing things, so that they're not intimidated or threatened or jealous or any of that funny stuff that can happen. Just other power sisters around you. I'm saying sisters because being a woman of color, there's a perspective of the world that we share that is not shared by other people. Sorry. And so having sisters of color around you who are also clear about their vision and dynamic movers and shakers, wow, you can get so much. You can come and you can say, this is what's going on. I need some help. I need some feedback. And whether they've worked in your actual area or not, they have so much experience and perspective, and they can give you be such good sounding boards. I have numerous powerful sisters around me that I have so much pride that I know these people, and that they can give me really good input. Also to have mentors or aunties, whether that's in your family for the emotional kind of support that's needed to really advocate and fight, or in the institution, or people who used to formerly be in the institution. Find them, or they will usually find you too when they see that you're a power sister, moving and shaking and advocating with justice at the center of what you do. Usually they'll find you too, and cultivate those relationships. They can be really critical, because if you are a power sister making moves and advocating, there will of course be people that come at you and after you. And these allies will help you prepare for how to battle against, how to navigate around, how to neutralize, and still get effective work done. For example, I'll give you an example from my background in advocating in these institutions. There's always this this belief that there's not enough money, even though there's tons of money. The voters passed a bond and to give millions of dollars to our colleges. And oftentimes I find that women of color, we don't always know where the money's at and how to advocate and get the money to advance the work that we are doing for advocating for people of color. So I heard about this bond, and I heard that there were some meetings, and I happened to be in a meeting, and this white male faculty the meeting wasn't about the money, but the president at the time was like, "Oh yeah, that gate is coming for your department. It's about $800,000." And I was like, "What? A gate costs what?" And I just listened to their conversation, and I said to myself, "Oh, okay, I see. There's a secret going on here. There's a lot of money floating around. Clearly, this white male faculty knows he's advocating for his department that has 90% white students. Let me go on and find out what's happening here." Ended up finding out through elders in my system that helped me identify, where these sources of funds were. And I went and I advocated for funding to create an Africana Center. Again, clear with the vision. This took several years, but we got over $500,000, about $700,000, and we built original curriculum about the Black experience, and in this center that's decorated with all kind of African art, so that students could come into a space and feel at home and feel a connection and learn and engage in these digital interactive ways. The only regret I have about that one is that I didn't ask for 2 or 3 million. The leader I am today, it's the millions now. But at this time, 20 years ago, I just couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. So that's all right. Self-reflection, we're always learning to strengthen our skills, right? So allies, the point being that allies really helped in that instance, because they helped me navigate that next level so that I could build something for Black students and for all students of color to come in and learn in a different way. Again, I like to teach how to learn in different ways inside and outside the classroom, so it fit. We have classroom, we have a Black consciousness tours, now we have the Africana Center, now what else, right? Different ways to impact where my passion is and where I believe my strengths are. And so the last piece is probably the most important piece, and I hope that it resonates with you. Everything really that I have said can be wrapped up with saying to you that cultivating your own spirituality, however you define that, your own spirituality, cultivating that is key to everything else that I said above. Why are you here? What has the Creator put you here to do to benefit, humanity, your community, your affinity group, however you define that, cultivating that spirituality so that your third eye, so that your ancestors, so that the Creator can speak to you and you can hear it immediately, directly, and you can speak to them and you can hear it immediately. I can't underestimate the role that plays. When we as warrior women go to do this work, we are not concerned about making friends. We are concerned about pleasing our ancestors. We are concerned about moving forward on the path which the Creator has put us here for. If you go and you read, which you should, women of color who have led past and present, you'll start to find some common threads, and this is one of them. Their vision and their spiritual sense of their purpose is so strong that anything trivial falls aside. Whether that's Harriet Tubman, putting her man aside to keep on continuing to do the work, whether it's Nanny of the Maroons in Jamaica, who's like, "Oh, I'm clear, I'm not signing that treaty. I will fight for real freedom," as opposed to the men who signed a treaty that said that they would return runaway slaves back to the plantation. I mean, if you read and read and read across the board, women of color leaders, many names of which we do not know, I'm telling you, they have cultivated a spiritual, purposeful sense where it becomes easy for them to let the small things fall for the greater purpose of Ma'at, of achieving truth, justice, and righteousness. And I fundamentally believe that it is women of color, and especially those of us who connect with the indigenousness of our roots, it is women of color who are here to turn the entirety of humanity back around. And certainly there is cause for that. I thank you again. I hope I've given you just any kind of gem to think about. And thank you to all of you for leading and advocating and continuing to do this work so that we might see another day, a better day.